Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live for Mondays, and I just want to say, wow, change is a happening, and whether it comes in so many different ways. I mean, for people, change, for cases, for all kinds of things. So I'm going to go over that, of course, and welcome to Live at 5 Mondays. If you're new to Live at 5 Mondays, we're going to first go into something different, something completely new. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to maybe unpack something, discuss some things, some news. Yeah, different things come up, and there's plenty, plenty going on, plenty for you to read. And some of the most common things, well, you'll probably read, I may mention it, but at the end of the day, I'd rather dive into something that I feel is important to share with you. And if it's unpacking, well, then I will read some things so that you can hear it and I will speak to it. Then today we are definitely going to hit those jokes, hit those puns, and make us smile by the end of Live at 5. I never know how long it's going to go. Could be 30 minutes, could be 40 minutes, could be 50 minutes. It'll depend on how much there is to kind of go through. I'll take I'll keep an eye out for comments and kind of go from there. So let's get started. What is something new? Well, there's a couple of things here, and I do want to read something as well. But there was something, I mean, I've been in foraging, I've been beginning mushroom hunting. It's interesting to live off the land than to get into agriculture or gardening. Not that that is a crazy thing, to stay away from. No, no, it's not. But there's this other element of nourishment out there that is, it's huge. It's the world, and just when you think you've heard everything, and you go through a handful of books on foraging and wild plants that are even just available in Ontario, something else comes up. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the autumn olive tree. It is kind of silvery at the end. It almost looks like an olive tree. It is not native here, I believe, going by memory, Japan, Korea, Asia, so over there, but it ended up here in the 1800s, and they do say that it spreads. But hey, if it's food, then it's good. But it starts early, it's got a long season, and therefore can shade out some of the other local plants. But it's not like it's everywhere because I have not seen it yet. But it's an interesting berry. It's kind of like these white spots on it. But autumn olive, and you can make jam with them. Again, it's one of those fruits. It's kind of smallish, and I'll post up a picture. But the idea is, yeah, you can make some sort of sauce with it. Anything you'd be thinking about, which you use cranberries for, or raspberries, or berries, or any of those. It looks like a berry, but they call it autumn olive. So that was very interesting. Like most berries, there's going to be a combination of good nutrition there with vitamin C and such. It's a reddish berry. And again, the tree looks very much like an olive tree. Very interesting. Autumn berry. The other thing I want to bring up here, and I actually want to speak to it because this is something I just read about it, and I have brought it up on here before, because it is one of those things that if you haven't heard, if something gives so much benefit and it is something that's been around a long time, it is worth bringing up again. It is worth talking about again, and I'm almost sure and guaranteed I will be bringing it up again. So I'm just going to bring in some of the facts here. I'm going to post very soon about the Awakening Book Club, and this is book 10. We're usually going through the 9 books, but this is something that was, I think, 2010, and it is part of the Anastasia Ringing Cedars series. So in here, when we talk about the cedar, it is, and this is a Siberian cedar. Oftentimes, you think pine tree, well, there's different ones. Cedars, well, there's different ones. In here, there is there's this one tree, and it can grow 40 meters. So if you're thinking feet, 120 feet, that's that's like 10 stories. But this particular tree has these nuts, and these nuts, I should have marked it off with yellow. It would have been a lot easier. But let me see if I can find the. That's what I didn't have. There's a little bottle that it comes in. I think I put it away. But cedar nut oil. Cedar nut oil is that uh, something that's been used for a very, very long time, and it actually does a number of things. So, cedar nuts, and it's the quality, it's the fruit of the Siberian. So, if we think of cones and certain nuts and they have nuts in it, it can be the fruit, just like mushrooms can be seen as the fruiting part of the mycelium network. That if anybody are Star Trek fans, the latest discovery talks to the mycelium network, and they tap into that, and they're able to go long distances in a very quick space. It's almost like this network that goes through space. It's kind of invisible, and if there's this one gentleman, and he knows how to tap into it. So the quality of the fruit, the Siberian cedar, these cedar nuts, greatly surpasses that of the nuts of cedars in other climate zones on the planet. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that at times certain types of trees, and even in certain locations, they may be different. This is no different than oregano oil. From the mountains is going to be different than the oregano oil that you may produce from whatever oregano plants that you've kind of grown. Different things, and might be somewhat due to the here's what I will gather from that. It's no different than the chaga mushroom. Chaga, not merely mushroom, but a fungus or some mushroom. And that particular grows in cold. So Siberia is cold. It may have something to do with its environment that makes it really strong, very hardy, similar to wild plants. They will have a hardiness. They're survivors of their own right, not being pampered by the gardener, let's say. So way back, let's just see here, cedar wood. So now there's other things about the cedar tree, Siberian cedar tree. The wood possesses a special phytocidal properties. That's probably phytoncidal properties, even once been cut, so a moth will take up residence in the closet made of cedar. So we've heard of that cedar chest, cedar balls that you could put in old chests, so that the moths, what do? Eat wool. At least that's where they're. So even King Solomon, he built a whole temple out of it and sold many properties off. Gave away several entire cities of his kingdom in exchange for this particular cedar in the wood. So there's a couple things here, might as well. Some of these things were very interesting. I had never heard of it before, but cedar seeds can survive frost and are able to hold out for extended periods of time. So one of the things that it goes into is the ice ages, and it was around before then, and it was able to withstand the ice ages because for the length of time these seeds can stick around and then grow. So what is so unique about the fruit of the cedar? It's ecologically it's pure in that way, and it's a healing food product. So it's pure and healing food product of our time. And the kernel, they call it the nut kernel, contains a necessary complex of vitamins. So scientists from the University of a town in Tomsk in Russia, who have studied the properties of cedar nut oil and added it to the diet of people who served as responders to the accident at Chernobyl. So when they had that radiation poisoning from the nuclear power plant, it actually the results experiment showed that the test subjects actually were improving in their immunity, and that was good. So we think about immunity at any point in time. Vitamin D, yes, absolutely, sunshine, movement, all these healthy lifestyles, but even the cedar nut oil. But the interesting thing about cedar nut oil. Now, I've had bottles of it and I've had it. It's it's cedar. I mean, it's cedar. Don't mind it at all. I have the taste for it. Taste for doing, many different things. But there's no contradictions for the use of cedar oil when pregnant women and nursing mothers, so they can use it as well. There's a couple of other things. Females of certain fur-bearing animals. If there is no fruiting that year, so apparently the trees will fruit every other year or maybe even more so, but they will not produce babies. They will not get pregnant. They will not have it. So somehow it's just a mysterious thing. They animals are able to. So somehow there's a nutritional factor to it that helps with the young development. That's what I can see, in the health of the mother, because animals, when they give birth, it's a stress. I know this from dogs and selling the seal oil to places that are raising dogs, dogs of all kinds of things, and it is a stress. It's all the nursing, depending on how many pups they have, how many babies, and so it's best to have the things that are going to support that. It is very well known that the health of the offspring, even for humans, and some of the work that research has been done, that through times of famine and depression, the babies are different. There's some developmental delay, perhaps. There's other factors that can happen, but when a mother is very nourished, then it's a completely different scenario, and that can be reflected in the children. And of course, once upon a time, the last 100 years, or the depression that we think of as food shortages, that they could see the differences between the children depending on the time in there. The only thing that it comes to mind with famine is sometimes it's the nutrition of the food. By feeding poor quality food, I'm going to just say it, grains, energy, they can have the energy to get pregnant, but it's not sustaining enough. So then you do have starving children, and I'm thinking about a thing that I could talk about in this world where they just give them cheap grains and they can still have babies, but they're not healthy. So there's much to a cedar oil. I'm not going to talk about it too much more, but other than that, these trees, when you make oil of things, you end up with a cake, end up with, well, what's left, it's no different than juicing, and you have fiber. You can use all parts of the nut, grind it up, make flour. The sap can be used of the tree as well. It's not the only tree that you can use sap from, but it's there. And apparently, one tree can produce so much food and so many items, and how much food. And these particular, they in themselves, these Siberian cedar trees, and their food is probably got a high immune system in itself, and it can last numerous years. And that's why when it doesn't produce some of the years, then there can be enough that's left. In fact, I think the nut can stay in the tree for a while, even just in the tree. If that's what I remember, what I was thinking, yeah, up to a ton. So one cedar alone is capable of producing in 1 year up to a ton of cedar nut. So these are the nuts that can be used for food once they're shelled. But that's not all. Not by any means. You can extract the cedar milk from the kernel of the cedar nut, which is not only suitable for human consumption, but which you can also successfully use to feed infants. So that's interesting, because typically when I think of things that can feed infants, we're always going to the mammal. We're always going to the mammal to help with that. But so the cedar nut milk probably has that. And you can get world-class cedar nut oil, of course, which is good for salads, anything oils that you can do there. But it's also medicinal, and that I can speak to a little bit more. But we're going to carry on here. So yes, after you express the oil from the cedar nut kernels, you're left in this case with an oil cake, and then like again, you can use it as a dried flour to make bread, cookies, pastry. Crepe sounds pretty good about now. But there's also the sap, and that's a prophylactic substance, medicinal and prophylactic, and that's in folk medicine. So there's a lot, there's a lot. I'll post up a website that has a lot more cedar oil, Siberian cedar oil. They sell the oil. I'm not sure if they sell the cake or anything like that. And there's a lot of information there. So, and I believe, I'm going to double check that it comes from Siberia, only because there's, when you hear cedar nut oil and it becomes a market, then you can absolutely have others kind of come in, and you think all cedar nut oil is created equal, but not the case. So that is with a lot of things. It's no different than me talking to the seal oil. A lot of the seal oil on the market is refined, bleached, and deodorized, and there's one that I know that's raw. It goes with olive oil. Olive oil, same thing. You can cold press it, but if you do it too quickly, you're going to oxidize it. Heat will be generated, and according to some, I won't mention names, they can be cut. So what is cutting in? Well, it's no different than the recreational drugs. They can cut in cheap oils and make them in a lot of ways appear. You should add a little food coloring if you wanted to make it, people will think of anything to kind of do that. So let's carry on to the next segment, which is, let me kind of give you a sense of what I want to get at today, which is good news. It's good news for sure. And many things are kind of coming in as far as information, and they still keep hammering on the cases, and I've talked about that that's very interesting on how it's cases, but I don't want to mention, really talk about cases in this sense, in the cases as in you have the common cold or 2229E, the common cold, or any of those mild symptoms and stuff, but cases as in court cases, and the cases that are coming up, and the liability. I think there's some people are delivering, now what I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's in my emails anyway, but they're delivering things to liability, and I'm sure this kind of thing that's coming in will very, very much have people think about what direction they're going in. So it's good news. I think it was Action for, and then blah 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 blah, Canada, that they're going through that. So I'm grateful, because my daughter's in high school and she's really, really feeling the pressure. And part of it is not so much high school, it is her soon to go, or soon to write tests. So she wants to write a test for her French, because she's been in French immersion or extended French, and there's that test, and that's this summer, because she'll have just finished up grade 12, even though she's in grade 11, and then another, the SAT test, SATs, and that she wants to write, and then there's university following that. So lots of good news with these cases, because one of them, in a sense, that the liabilities being letters being delivered is to the trustees of the TDSB, that's the Toronto District School Board that we have here. So they've been very, very pushing. And again, from a compassionate standpoint, primarily there's fear. Now, sure, people are bought out. Sure, there may be some peer pressure or that kind of stuff going on as well, but fear, fear and believing in all the stuff that's kind of going on. So whether there's, I think England is to scrap the passes. I've kind of read that. I think apparently, hot off the press, Colombia, not even if it's hot off the press, but I haven't validated, couldn't find the news articles, where they are kiboshing everything. You may have heard the video from the Ghana president reading something that we may have, or you may have, or I have read regarding a little bit about the planning, the planning scenario. So that was a president in Ghana. In Africa, liability notices, that's what I want to talk about. Criminal investigation. So there's actually a case in England where there's been some notices, and it's from the police. It's in, well, the case, the criminal investigation case number was confirmed. There is such a case. You always want to make sure that you were checking out the facts and double checking and going to a few, just kind of looking up in different things. So that's real. That's happening, and there's the lawyer, U.S., and there's that, and I think the Dr. Eden too as well. Eden, he's got something going as well. I saw something on that. And so cases, I mean, these things are coming out. They're coming out. They're being filed. People are seeing them being, and that will have certain people take notice of how they can, even if they've got to change their mind or the beliefs or whatever, they're exploring it, can make a difference, can support. I mean, that's probably going to be a bit of confidence boosting for a number of people to see, in black and white, and to hear from many different angles these particular cases, these notices that are be serving, these criminal investigations that exist. So that's all good news, there. But I thought this was kind of interesting, and it has been, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it has been, some sort of a press conference. I think politician. I gotta look up. I just saw a small piece of it here. I've got some notes here where the Canadian government has been found out to be spying. I think it's 33 million cell phones, and they were about to continue for another 5 years, I believe. They wanted to extend it, of course, right under our noses, but not really, probably behind our back, so to speak. So they're spying, just whether it's just on the location side, but it has been confirmed and it has come out. And again, there was a press release by a gentleman. And there you go. So, yeah, another piece of good news in Virginia. I believe there's some selection government, something governor there. And and as soon as he got in, wrote some executive orders to kibosh the masking, kibosh a lot of the mandates, even for the government workers. So all good news there. I believe that another, how I would call it good news, is things coming to the forefront. Even the tennis player in Australia, that more and more people can see how ridiculous some things are and what they're happening, and just give their head a shake and go, what is really happening here? So in some ways, the good news is that the length of time, I'll say this, that the length of time that stupidity has happened, and these events have go on, the longer it's gone on, and I think 2 years is enough if I have to say that myself, but the length of time that things continued, and the escalation of things happening, they say one thing and then they do quite the opposite. Oh, but we're not going to do this, but then it happens, and it just keeps escalating in the wrong direction, away from freedoms and stuff like that. So in that ridiculousness that comes forward, it's very, very helpful, in a sense that, almost look at it this way: it had to happen. It has to happen so that people, and more people, can awaken to what's happening and see it for what it is. I talked about the black and white and how it was noticing a lot of gray coming in these past several years, more and more, even more than several years ago, but just more grays, and that, in a lot of ways, what we thought was good, what we thought was safe, what we thought was being secure, and we were doing, had our best interest and all of that, and looked very light, very bright, very innocent, isn't so much. It's more gray. And then what was really, really dark is lightening up, and there's some things that people are hearing about, pedophilia. How much have we heard about that in the news? And that's a lot of good news there on the uncovering of that and the continuous and the investigation that they've been doing. Lots, lots there. So, and again, a number of people that are involved in that come to it a little bit honestly in some ways. It's crazy to say that, but it's been millennia or centuries and millennia where the, let's say, the dark forces have been pushing pleasure, I'm just going to use that word, on the good people. Of course, pleasure, joy, fun, it's all really good, but just the way it has gotten a lot of people involved and addicted, come away from relationships in a sense of how we understand families and stuff. So yeah, and what happens when you get a taste of something that feels so good, you just want it more and more and more. And if it's available, then, like we're thinking brothels and stuff way back when. And of course, back then, travel, wars, all these things brought men away from the family dynamic. So it was not a very healthy thing. The many things that have happened in the past. Take the men, they'll go away. Not very healthy in and of itself for humanity anyway, but that would bring it up there. So that's really good news too as well. And let me just see what I kind of have up here. We have to think about numbers. Numbers. There's an article, Why Canada's Hospital Capacity Was So Easily Overwhelmed. It really paints Canada in a dark way, but I want to insert this. In essence, when things shine well, whether you get a badge of honor or it kind of shines a dark thing, all of that stuff to me is all lots of drama. You can paint things a million different ways from different angles, be the same subject, but you can do that. And in this case, why Canada's hospital capacity was so easily overwhelmed is, it's kind of just showing, wow, we pay a little bit more for, hospital beds, and at certain times it can be overwhelmed. But listen, they're not used in being overwhelmed all the time. So I think it always gets down to taking personal responsibility for our health. I mean, think about how many people get so fearful for certain things. They have not been taught how to take care of themselves, health, and self-diagnosis like many of the doctors and books that are available. No, they would freak out. Who knows what it is? It could end up like this. It could end up like that. And because of that, the people, good people, go running to the emergency room, and it turns out to be this or that. But yes, it's the confidence and relief just hearing that nothing's wrong. But there's a lot of that going on, and because we have in Canada specifically, in Canada we have this healthcare coverage thing, unlike the US where you have to pay, you probably think twice, but they pay a fortune for insurance. It's crazy. So here, at a flip of a hat, a flip of a dime, people just run to the hospital, and even more so right now with the symptoms. Flus can be crazy, and just take you out and put you in bed for a few days. Having been there when I was younger, many times, usually around the holiday season, of course, because it's a busy time. Drink too much, eat too much, play too much, busy too much, doing too much. And that's won't get into all of that. But some of these articles, if you could just step back and see it for what it is, it's almost like what they ran out of topics to talk about. But I wouldn't be too concerned about it. I take the position that we need to take responsibility for our health more than ever. So there are some things that are coming out more and more as well, like a Murphy, R. Murphy, if you know who he is. And he's definitely writing a series of articles and not painting any some of these certain leaders in a good light. So you may get I'll post it here, but he's got a sense of humor, a great way of presenting things, and just, comes down on it, which is great. And there's another article, another thing that I'm going to, and this is about a funeral director, and I've heard other ones before. This is another one where he talks about initially when things were, let's just call it March 2020 for a timeline, and talking about how nothing really changed as far as that business goes. And it was, obviously they chat and they kind of know the industry, and that was the same, I think, and this is in the UK. But one of the interesting thing is, what he noticed was a spike or an increase, and that was around the time when these started happening. So very interesting interview there. And at the end of the day, there's another thing that I'm not sure if I'm going to post it up here, but and at the end of the day, what's happening is people are finding about certain things, and you're not quite sure what is this all about. In essence, people will have different takes on it depending on what their reality is delivering them, and that we have to appreciate that some people see a lot of that or don't see a lot of things that are kind of happening in that field. And so, but there is a particular site. I will try and post it down below. We'll see what happens. But it is about a person who is out of Europe, and you might have seen this back in December. I surely did see it then, but I didn't really talk to it because of the horrific nature of the divulging of information. But this person was a specialist, and when you shave, when you shave, and in order to take the whiskers off, you have a blade. You have a blade in there. And if you're familiar with GO and me talking about it months and months and months ago, and you know what GO stands for, there is a whole site on it in its applications. I think it came out in 2010, and it surely has a number of applications. So one of the applications can be to create something sharp, as in, the blade that's in there. And it is said quite strongly that it's also, it's also in this as well. Hence the tears, hence the inflammation, especially in the cardiovascular system. So if certain things get into the bloodstream, that is more problematic than just being in the muscle. But it would absolutely, absolutely, how would I say it, validate why that's happening. And of course, if you understand about athletes and enough about the body, the athletes are, you can think about everything is faster, everything is speeding up, circulation is speeding up, things that, obviously the more calories, for the energy, so things, metabolism speeds up, tearing their muscles, so they have to repair, so therefore they have to eat accordingly. They do, if they don't take care of themselves properly, will have a suppressed immune system. That's just all part of the nature of being an elite athlete. But the reason why so many of the athletes have had these adverse side effects is because everything is sped up. The circulation, the blood flow, everything is. So there would be more damage, more inflammation, and that's kind of an explanation around there. So I'll try and post it down below. It's actually on many different websites, but I did listen to so what ended up happening, he ended up passing very shortly after, or the same day or the day after. This particular doctor is known as the expert in the GO in Europe. And you'll see as he's doing this interview, doing it and trying to explain and get the message out there. But his, I think, fiance was there, and not to go, maybe you can read between the lines as I'm saying, but he passed within the day or 2 days after he spoke about the very topic I've been talking about here. So I'm just talking about, let me just see what else kind of comes up here. And there's a lot kind of go through. I spent a little bit of time today. Well, good news. There's many people, all the leaders that kind of take the bull by the horns and putting fear out there. Dr. F, I will call him Fuccini. Somebody calls him Fettuccini. But so they're being brought, out and questioned, and things that are being discovered that way. So it's all good. Um, in an essence, it's all good. And again, key, to wrap up this kind of part of it, is to keep your vibration high no matter what you need to do. If it makes you happy to read a book, your favorite book, if it makes you happy to be kind, do a kind thing, do your gratitude journal, anything that can raise your vibration, thinking about compassion, working on not feeling angry about the scenario, spending time with loved ones, children, in the kitchen if that makes you happy. But it is a time more and more to raise your vibration, get that positive energy, because at the end of the day there is a scale. We know it from white to black. There's a scale, and we call it in art. I'm doing the art color course. It's the gray scale from white to black. So we have opportunities here to actually see things in a different way, rather than just being so divisive and painting things black or white or dark. And that can be very helpful. This is an opportunity to forgive. Forgive, not forget, as the Dalai Lama said. But and that sometimes will happen over time. You think of it less, but the idea is, forgiveness. So these are the opportunities where you can forgive or apologize or reconnect and do some work that helps you feel better about yourself, and about what's going on, bring more peace into your life. So this is an important time more than ever, alongside being aware of what's going on in the event, bringing the balance and the harmony more and more, and seeing things for they are. So it's not really just kissing and wishing and hoping and doing all of that either. It's about getting into a little bit of action that's comfortable for you, even if you just have to do it with yourself personally, taking care of yourself. That's going to be really important in this, and that usually makes a lot of people feel good. I mean, what have you been meaning to do for yourself and taking care of yourself? And that's a good place to start, where it's just about you. This whole selfishness is almost BS in a sense, where we have been taught to feel guilty and all that kind of things. And now, who's going to take care better of yourself than you? Who is in control of your thoughts more than you? And so I do have the Awakening You presentation coming up in February, I think February 17th, and Saturday, February the 19th. And the idea here, a very important component of that, is for you to learn about the mind and your thoughts, and what is the ego. What is the ego? Not the ego where you put yourself on a pedestal, but what is the ego that you've heard time and time again? It comes in different ways. Sometimes maybe you don't even think about it because you don't really understand it that well. But having spent a decade really keen to understand it, and with my teachers to better understand it, some things have come in. But at the end of the day, it's very exciting to go, I have no idea what that is. What is that? And to explore that wholeheartedly. I did the ego, but there's other things there. But life is a mystery. I will say that, just to kind of bring us into this grounded moment, is that life is always going to be a mystery, and it can make all kinds of different turns here, ups and downs. But the more that you understand about the ego, the mind, the thoughts, your powers of imagination and all of that, the more that you understand that and you work with that, instead of just going willy-nilly and being like the mouse in the wheel, keep spinning your wheels, which is not far from what they want you to do. They want you to kind of relinquish your responsibility for your health, relinquish your safety and security to them. They know what's better for you. Instead, we're going to put that out there and start to come in and take responsibility for all of that. That's what's so fun about the Awakening You workshop presentation. Yes, there's some homework, but it is down to the fundamentals and the basics, where it's like a house. You got to have a good, strong foundation and understandings, and then it just makes things much easier. And I think everybody should understand how the body works at a very simple level. How does the germ theory fit into this? Theory is the optimal word there. Um, the root causes of disease, as comes from doctors in the past, scientists and researchers, because they questioned and they could see things weren't right from hundreds of years ago. So probably many came to the same conclusion, because it'd be easy to understand that. So let's get into some jokes. I don't know if there's any comments, any questions. Hi, sis. Hello, sis. But all questions are welcomed, even now or after you're watching this video, because it's taped. So for sure. So let's go into some jokes and things like that, and find out if there's anything funny in this old book here. Let's get into sports. And I think one of the things about sports that I've learned and tuned into is the unhealthy nature of competition and what it does to athletes. It's great to be the best you, but many elite athletes have, they strive for this, and what if they don't make it? How does that make them feel? There's only one person that can win. How does that make you feel? You wish your competitors harm and say unkind things. People have abused their bodies to be these top athletes. The drugging, the doping, the blood doping, all those kind of things. So I see sports as it's like a sweet, a bittersweet thing. Obviously, the gambling part comes in, the leaders, the countries, all those things, and just hearing horrific stories about the injuries that because they're pushed, the injuries that these elite athletes kind of come into. So, jokes, puns, won't talk anymore about that. And riddles, this is Sport Shorts, and let's see what it has for us here. Mother, remember not to go into the water right after lunch. It's on a full stomach. And Smarty, well, that's all right. I'll swim on my... question, why is tennis such a noisy... Answer, because each player raises a racket. What has 18 legs and catches flies? What has 18 legs and catches flies? A baseball team. Now, clue, we are talking about sports shorts here, so that you might be able to come up with some of these on your own. Stranger, catch any fish? Fisherman, did I? I took 30 out of this stream this morning. Stranger, do you know who I am? I'm the game warden. Fisherman, do you know who I am? I'm the biggest liar in the country. Well, that's some quick thinking there. Quick thinking on your feet. Question, what is the biggest jewel in the world? What is the biggest jewel in the world? A baseball diamond. I'll read a couple more. I'm just going to play and catch up from last week. And actually, you know what? This will be fun. I'm just going to kind of go through here. I'm just going to flip the pages and see what we can stumble on here. This is all in the family. I've come to ask for your daughter's hand. Well, this is the father, you'll have to take all of her, or it's no deal. Let's read another one. Frankie, Dad, how long does it take to get from New York to Boston? Dad, 4 hours. Frankie, and how long from Boston to New York? And Dad says, well, it's the same. You ought to know that. Frankie, well, it's not the same from Thanksgiving to Christmas as it is from Christmas to Thanksgiving. Now, that's kind of smart thinking there. Father, I like this. I'm going to leave this one. This is what we're going to leave off here. Well, son, how do you like school? And the son says, closed. And just talking about that, well, the schools, if it hadn't been online, they would have been closed today. Here in Toronto, we have, well, it's crazy. It's dark out now, but it was this morning 14 inches, and that's just what accumulated on the table. We took a measuring stick, and we had kind of a little contest to guess. My husband said 18 inches, and I said 14 inches, maybe 15, but 14, and I was dead on. But that, one of the things about measurements is because when you're an artist, sometimes you have to, it's a sense, it's a sense that you can gain just by looking at things. Like a sense of direction. Some people have no sense of direction, and some people have a really, really good sense of direction. I like to think if I know where I'm going, I can kind of figure things out, but I've been tripped up. Anyway, I'm going to wish everybody a good week. Keep up with the good news. Find it, see it. It's like the ruby in the mountain, whatever it is, dig it up. There's going to be lots of it, and I am just putting it out there that there's going to be more and more good news ongoingly. I'm just awaiting for more fun with the truckers as well. That should be a lot of fun. I think they're doing a convoy, a good old-fashioned convoy across the country. So that seems like a lot of fun for them. I don't blame them one iota. It is crazy. Again, some of the things that well, they can only try. They can only try, and it is for the people to stand up. So I really like that more and more people are putting on their big pants, pulling up their big pants, and getting involved, and more people are getting involved. So that is good news. Anyway, take care, everyone. It's Live at 5 with Cheryl Millett, and I shall see you next Monday unless wonderful, crazy kind of stuff kind of comes up and I'd like to share it with you. Otherwise, happy balancing, harmony. Have a good evening and take care, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye for now.